been an incredible mountaineering feat. I don't know if this is an athletic feat, a mountaineering feat, a skiing feat, or perhaps a combo of all the above. A Polish adventure skier has become the first person to climb Mount Everest and then ski down without using supplemental oxygen.
I didn't realize he climbed it first. I thought he got dropped at the top.
That's an accomplishment in and of itself, but then
you got to carry your ski gear?
I'm guessing, yeah.
We're going to get to the bottom of this.
Okay, so we are now joined by Greg Kane. Greg, morning to you. You are with the Chicago, is it the Chicago Mountaineering Club?
Yes.
Okay. I'm glad we have a mountaineering club in the middle of the Midwest. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so what is this like an indoor mountaineering club?
Well, it's we introduce people to rock climbing first, and then generally they migrate to our campground and climbing we have at Devils Lake, Wisconsin, and we have a cabin out in Rocky Mountain National Park. And people eventually migrate usually to mountaineering, and then we have a lot of mountaineering training, expeditions, and we go all over the world. So
have you, hold on, before we get going, sorry, Caitlin.
That's okay.
I'm just wondering, what's the tallest peak you yourself have climbed, sir?
Chimborazo in Ecuador. It's a little over 20,000 feet.
Wow.
20,000 feet.
Wow,
so
that is
give
no
some
joke.
Perspective.
How old were you when you accomplished that?
62.
Wow.
Oh, okay. So I'm sure you've done your research about this Mount Everest climb and ski. Can you tell us how high he was at the peak of this mountain? I know there's different peaks that they can climb on Mount Everest.
Well, no, there's really only one summit. Lhotse, the fourth highest mountain in the world, sits right next to Everest, and people do a twofer and climb Everest, and on the way down, zip up Lhotse, which just takes half a day, and knock off two of them. But Mount Everest is the tallest mountain on Earth at 8,849 meters, which is just a little over 29,000 feet high.
29,000 feet, and you climbed 20,000 feet, you said?
Yeah, so I want to find out more about that. We're watching the footage right now. So first of all, I didn't even know you could get a helicopter up there that high, because it looks like we're looking at some either helicopter or drone footage.
It's drone footage.
Okay, it's drone footage. Oh, that makes more sense. Okay, so 37-year-old Andres Bargiel did this. Okay, he climbed to the summit, he summited, and then he skied down without supplemental oxygen. Greg, will you put in perspective for us lay people and non-climbers how big of a deal this is?
It's phenomenal and virtually unbelievable. I think Andres is something of a genetic freak of nature. There are probably not very many people on Earth that could have done what he did. And generally, when we think of getting ready for a big major climb, that we need to put in 2 years of hard specific training for that. But in this case, I think Andres has probably been training for the last 20 years for this type of thing. He has just gotten better and better shape. And so if you think you could go just zip up Everest in the winter, which, by the way, he did this ascent recently, it was called the fall season, and no one has summited Everest since 2015, I believe. 2010, 2015. It hasn't been done since then, and he pulled it off in 16 hours from base to summit with skis.
Did you say that no one has summited Everest since 2015?
In the fall.
Oh, in the fall. Okay.
Right, in the fall. In fact, there's not enough snow on Everest. It's so windblown and so rocky that's why what he did really isn't possible in the spring climbing season, which is when 99% of the people attempt Everest. He needed full snow all over the mountain, so he went at the end of the monsoon season where Everest is just chock-a-block with snow, and he had enough snow that he could actually ski all the way down, and that's why he had to try this in the fall. I think this was his third attempt. But yeah, to think that I mean, there's only a third the oxygen, and you know, the big thing is doing this without oxygen, which fewer than 2% of Everest climbers even pull off. And those that do sometimes have brain damage for going that high for that long with not enough oxygen to keep you alive. Because above 26,000 feet, you're dying. You're dying. So you have to get up, get down. There's only a third the oxygen up there. So if you want to put in perspective, want to try this at home, see what it's kind of like to do it, duct tape your mouth, press one nostril closed, and go running.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so I'm reading here that it took him 4 days to ascend from the base camp and then 2 days to ski back down. How long does it take a typical journeyman to climb?
Well, Everest is usually done using Sherpas, which he went with a Sherpa, but not with Sherpa support. It takes people acclimate. It's usually 30, 40, 50, 60 days total. But the actual climbing up the mountain usually takes about 3 days, and this guy did it in 16 hours. And the phenomenal part is when accidents in mountaineering generally happen on the way down because you're tired, you're exhausted, you're at high altitude, your brain's not thinking well. There's a lot of brain impairment due to the low oxygen, and low oxygen also doesn't allow you to stay warm. And the fact that he was able to do something so dangerous after 16 hours of climbing with no oxygen at high altitude is just, there's very few people in the world, I think, who are genetically gifted enough to do this, along with all the training and the time he put into this, and you know, skiing for decades. Very few people could even attempt to do this and hope to survive.
What is more impressive in your mind, Greg? Is it the fact that he skied down the mountain, or is it the fact that he did so without oxygen?
The without oxygen, because there's, you know, when I subscribe to a book that lists mountaineering accidents throughout the world every year, and the common thread is people make poor decisions. Almost every time somebody makes a bad decision. So this guy's in the most extreme situation where you would expect bad decisions, the highest point on Earth with the lowest oxygen on Earth, and he makes good decisions all the way down skiing. It's just mind-blowing that someone didn't make mistakes. It's just, that's the most amazing part to me, is able to make good decisions on that little oxygen.
I have a question for you, Greg. Did you get a chance? I'm sure you've watched, you know, the coverage of this climb and this ski down. Did you watch an interview with him afterwards to catch any words that he said?
I didn't see any where he spoke anything more than, you know, yay, Red Bull. So no, I mean, he had a lot of technical support. He had a drone flying around him the entire time and connected to a radio to his ear, which guided him, say, go left, go right. You know, it took a lot of modern technology to make this not doable, but survivable.
Yeah.
And this guy was trained for years for this. This was his third attempt. I actually thought his ski descent down K2 was even more impressive, actually.
Oh, wow. He did that too, huh?
Yeah, first. He did that first. Most people say K2 for last because it's, you know, one of the most dangerous mountains on Earth. And it's just vertical top to bottom. And he skied down, K2.
Yeah, I think the way you phrased it, genetic freak of nature, is probably accurate. I have a logistical question, though, here. I remember, this was decades ago, but I read Into Thin Air by John Krakauer. Have you read that?
Yes.
Okay. So what stands out to me from that book was the Hillary Step, which is that bottleneck, right? So is he... And then there was that like ice field, with that glacial ice field, which a lot of people die on.
Ice field, right?
That's right.
Which all those things shift.
Yeah, they shift, and I mean, people die on this mountain constantly. I mean, Caitlin, just so you know, don't read that book, by the way. There's bodies up there. Yeah, that will probably stay up there for years and years longer.
Yeah.
In terms of navigating that on a pair of skis, what insight can you provide me? Because after having read that, I'm like, well, how would anyone ski down that mountain?
Well, because he went at the end of the monsoon season where Everest is just covered with snow, the Hillary Step was just buried in snow. He essentially just
Floated
walked up
down.
it. Yeah, and the Khumbu Icefall also buried in snow, and you could probably barely tell he was even in the Khumbu Icefall because it's so full of snow.
Why wouldn't more people then tackle Everest when it almost sounds like it's easier to climb, to ascend and descend after big snow?
Because there are so few weather windows in September between seasons. And part of the reason why this hasn't been done in the last 10 or 15 years, before Andres just did it, is that the weather windows are so rare, and in most years there's never a weather window we could even make the attempt. And so, yeah.
So he's lucky too. He's lucky.
Yeah,
he's as lucky as he is talented.
Yeah, it's it just depends on the weather, and he caught a weather window and he did it.
You said 16 hours.
Weather windows are so rare that most people never make an attempt in the fall because it's just a waste of time and money.
Okay. Did he sleep at all? Do we know? Did he spend the night, or did he just go for it for 16 hours straight?
Well, he went 16 hours from base camp to the summit. Spent minimal time at the summit because, you know, you would think you would be so exhausted after 16 hours straight of climbing, and to turn around and ski down where you've got to be so exhausted mentally, physically, it's just mind-blowing that a person could pull this off.
Base camp, how does base camp compare to the mountain that you climbed in Ecuador in terms of elevation?
It's difficult to compare things like that. For example, Mount Rainier right here in Washington State in the US is taller from base to summit than Mount Everest is. Because Mount Everest starts, the bottom of Mount Everest is on a 17,000 foot plateau, so it extends 12,000 feet, or a little bit over 2 miles above that plateau. And so there are plenty of mountains from base to summit that are higher than Everest. It's just overall altitude. Everest is the highest. And to get back to your question on the sleep part, yes, he spent the night in Camp 2 because it got to the point where it was getting dark, and he was at Camp 2, and what he's doing is so dangerous and so exhausting anyway. To have continued on probably would have been suicide, so he made the right decision, stopped, spent the night, and then continued in the morning.
All right, Greg, before we let you go, I want to talk a little bit with you about your own mountaineering experience and talk about the Chicago Club as well. What got you into it, and how were you able to pull off this achievement so late in your mountaineering career? In your 60s, you're summiting the highest peak.
You know, it's just easier to stay in shape than to get in shape. And most people, you know, there are not a lot of mountaineers in the world, and there's just not a lot. And you kind of have to be a special person to do it. And most mountaineers have no ego because ego is what gets you killed. But I started working as a professional rock climber when I was 17. And I did that in the summers at Philmont Scout Ranch when I was in college. And then I picked it up again, you know, did a lot of hiking adventure. I mean, more than a mountaineer, I'm an adventurer. And so I picked up mountaineering again about 20 years ago, and I led mountaineering trips around the world, Iceland, Ecuador, Denali, the Matterhorn, the Eiger, things like this. And I've been past president of Chicago Mountaineering, and now I'm on the board of directors. And I also own a company, a not-for-profit called Sustainable Ascents, where we try and provide. It's a long story, but we provide resources to indigenous people to start a climbing industry on their mountain.
Greg, can we talk about the Chicago Mountaineering Club in case people are interested?
Yeah, so ChicagoMountaineeringClub.org is the website, and you go on, there's an application to fill out there. You have to climb with members of the club at least 3 times before you can apply or go on one expedition outing out west. Either one will qualify you to apply. And the reason why we do that is mountaineering is an inherently dangerous sport, and we figure if you're going to climb with us, we have to be able to trust you, and that means we have to know you and know that you make good decisions. And so it's not the easiest club to get into, but once you're in, it's because you're a good, safe climber.
Wow. Well, it sounds like you guys are doing great things in the way of sustainability. I know that Everest, for example, has had its challenges, right, over the years with garbage collecting up there, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
But they've rectified that now. Everyone's required to bring down a certain amount of garbage. It's essentially the law that you must bring.
That's good.
I gotta say, climbing sounds kind of intimidating for people who have never climbed before. Are you guys open to new climbers? You mentioned starting inside and then making your way outside. So do you have open doors?
Absolutely, absolutely. So we have monthly indoor climbing, which counts as one of the climbing events because we're climbing with you and we're doing indoor climbing. We also have our campground inside Devils Lake State Park in Wisconsin, 2.5, 3 hour drive from here, where you do outdoor multi-pitch climbing, and it's a great way to get to know people and get people to trust you, and then those are the people that we allow in. But it doesn't matter who you are, it's just, there was a point in my life where I'd never climbed before either.
Very inspiring to hear your story. Greg, thank you for offering some perspective on this accomplishment as well. We appreciate it, sir.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Stay safe up there, sir.
Happy trails.
Absolutely.